How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about an all-new issue number 1. This is The Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos. This is from Dark Horse Comics and is based on an idea by James Tynion IV. And yeah, I guess I should get into that. He is top billed in the credits there. This was put out by his company Tiny Onion. So yeah, this, it's kind of a James Tynion book. I mean, it is one of his ideas, but he didn't actually write the script. And you see this in, like, movies a lot, where someone will come up with the idea for the movie, but then have a writer do it. And you see it sometimes in comics, too. And I mean, it's well within any creator's right to hire someone to help them along, and James Tynion is a very busy writer. It's just one of those things you have to know with his name on it. He has a fair bit of involvement, but this isn't 100% writ out by him, so it's not quite up to those, James Tynion high standards, It still is pretty good, but there are times you can tell it could have been a little better, in particular with tone. This book is about a young kid that feels different than the rest of the world. He has strange powers where he's really good at math and science, but also has random electricity powers that he doesn't quite know what they are or how he got them. An interesting enough setup, but the thing is, the contrast in the tone, it's a little off. I mean, this is called Oddly Pedestrian Life, yet nothing in the book really makes it seem like he's supposed to be pedestrian, average, or ordinary. I don't know why they called it Oddly Pedestrian Life when none of the book really reflects him being normal and is constantly telling you the opposite. But you also don't get a hint of too much of the rest of the world outside Christopher. I mean, it's a good bit of him talking and saying how he thinks and feels, and that's done really well. But so much of the book is about the contrast between Christopher and the rest of the world, yet you don't really get to know the rest of the world too much. This is a world where I constantly wonder how much does the general public know about weird sci-fi and horror stuff that might happen. There's a werewolf in this book. Is this a world where a werewolf would be particularly surprising? Or does it happen all the time? There's advanced science in this book. Is this in the present or the future? It's just one of those things that they don't really define what Christopher's supposed to be contrasting with. And also, there is a werewolf, which kind of comes out of nowhere because this book is actually a classic monsters book, apparently. The preview in the back said there's going to be a vampire next issue, so I guess this is a classic monsters book, but honestly, reading it from the beginning, not knowing what's going on, I thought I was reading a sci-fi book. So it didn't really, it's, classic monsters, but we didn't get an opening saying, oh, this is classic monsters, there's vampires and castles and stuff. And in turn, I didn't really get that that's what the feel we were going for. So it's just the tone that just doesn't quite work and isn't quite right. And I think it's going to be one of those things that, maybe we didn't get the best introduction to, but I think after a few issues, getting a sense of what this world's like, it probably will start to grow on you and make more sense. But it's just right off the bat, I'm like, what is this world like and what is this book about? It's just not super clear. Overall, though, I think it's fine. Just not the best thing ever. But probably worth a read. It's got some fun moments and a few interesting twists and turns that happen towards the end. Yeah, I think it's okay. Anyway, if you guys want to see a little bit more with this book, I'll switch to the close-up camera, show you guys some of the story and the art. No major spoilers, but if you want a little bit more of an analysis, a little bit of a peek inside, let's go and switch to the close-up camera. Alright, here we are inside the castle, taking a closer look at The Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos. We got a nice bit of foil up at the top. We get to see that this is $4.99. Again, a little steep, but for foil, and I think it might be a little thick, I'm not sure. It's fine. We do get this fun cover. It's actually got wraparound art, although, like with most wraparound art, the back isn't super interesting. Just more people coming to take a look at Christopher. We do get the Tiny Onion logo, and this is 00121, which I thought would be the B cover, but this looked to be the standard one. I couldn't find an A, but it is cool to see him there sparking everyone else in his lightning light. Now, if we open it up, we get the credits page, and we get a C based on a story idea by James Tynion IV, but the script was written by Tate Brombal with art by Isaac Goodhart. Now, after that, we get into the story proper. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but let's take a little bit of a look at this issue. I'll be avoiding the end, but let's analyze it a little bit, shall we? We open up with Christopher Chaos there, and he is eating some cereal and talking to an unseen figure on his front porch about how crazy and messed up his life is. So he does a little bit of this monologue, and then we get to see a little bit about some of his troubles. You know, he has this flash of him seeing blood flying everywhere and running through the woods, and he talks about invasive thoughts, auditory hallucinations, flight or fight symptoms. So yeah, he's not doing great, and he's trying to recenter himself. But then we get into his sort of life story, and we get to find out a little bit about him. We see him as a baby, and yeah, apparently he had a naturally blue hair that's not dye, and we get to see a brief image of who we assume might be his father or something, and then he's left on the hospital steps. Was there actually a time when nurses dress like that? She's got a cape on. That's pretty cool. Now, we also get to see some weird buildings in the background. That is one thing, is you get to know Christopher this issue, but not really the world. And, you know, for him saying he's such a strange character, I kind of want more contrast with the world, and I'm like, these buildings, is this book set in the future? And how much of the strange sci-fi and supernatural stuff do the general public in this world know about? And that I do kind of leave that questioning. But we get to see that Christopher will see equations. He says he can see the fabric of reality around him, and we get to see, like, him accidentally making all the razors in the barber shop come to life. And then he tries to build a machine and burns down his house. So we get kind of a feel that, you know, he does have, you know, smarts and some sort of electric-based superpowers. So we get a bit of who he is, and then we get him kind of spacing out and going on a long mathematical tangent. In school, you think it's science class, but no, there's Shakespeare on the wall doing this in drama, so it's completely unrelated. And the drama head guy, like the best actor in class, is like real subtle chaos. Now, this guy, you know, you think, okay, he's just some kid, but we find out a little bit about him. Christopher actually has a crush on him, and he sees him going into a secluded part of the woods that his mother said to stay away from. He follows him in there, and then we get kind of a moment that threw me for a loop. Granted, I guess it was supposed to be shocking, but he was going into the woods because he turns into a werewolf and he needed to be alone. Yeah, so the guy in drama club is a werewolf. You know, okay, yeah, that is supposed to be shocking, but overall, like, before this, I was getting the impression that this was a sci-fi book, and now it's a classic monsters book. Yeah, a little bit weird, and like I said, I kind of want to know like, what is this world like? Is this a world where werewolves are a thing? Like, you know, how strange and bizarre is this world, especially when you're constantly comparing Christopher to it? But the werewolf says to Christopher to run, and that's where we get probably where I'll leave you. A group of monster hunters shows up, and it's not looking too great for the werewolf kid there, and we get a sense of why Christopher might be panicking in those the segments that frame the story. But as far as what happens after that, the book does go on for a while, but that kind of gets into spoiler territory. But that's the setup. Overall, I think it is interesting, and like I said, the classic monster element did come a little bit out of nowhere, but I think it's something I am more interested in because I do like the classic monsters. It's just, you know, like I said, you know, there's a quirky element to this book, but then you don't really get to know what the rest of the world's like, and, you know, not even knowing that this is a classic monster book right off the bat, it just does feel a little bit unfocused, you know, so I am kind of wondering where this book goes, and it probably will be a book that 3 or 4 issues in will really find its footing, and you'll get to understand, like, this is the world of Christopher Chaos. But I mean, like, why is this oddly pedestrian? If anything, the story... Sorry, dropped something. But if anything, the story is constantly telling us how weird and different the world thinks he is. So I do kind of wonder why the title says Pedestrian. Yeah, I don't know. It's okay, but I don't think it's quite found its footing. It is interesting, though. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. How about my issue number 1's playlist, where you can see me talk about first issues of a bunch of new series. Lots of cool stuff in there. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.